The Hunt Palmer Show.
This is a catastrophe.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
That's what I wished for when I blew out my candle.
Locking down the middle of the day, live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
The floor is yours.
Hour 2, Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Talk some football, Saints OTAs, as well as LSU linebacker play. Whit Weeks was the guys on off the bench this morning. We'll do all that moving forward. I was putting the show together today and wanted to see if I could find someone to talk West Virginia baseball with me. And we're lucky to find Mike Casazza, who did a great job with us. Said, yeah, the only time I can make work there is probably 1:15. Okay, I got Koki at 1:15. He's penciled in there. That's his standing time. But if there's anybody that can handle an hour delay, it's probably the LSU beat writer who does like triple that every weekend. So Koki was good enough. He waited 45 minutes. There's a delay. He's used to doing it. He joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. It's easy as that, right, Koki?
Yeah, just easy as that, you know.
We appreciate some time. Look, it was a long weekend at the box for sure, but LSU was able to get it done. Was there one aspect of the weekend that stood out either in a positive or negative light to you?
That stood out. That just stood out in general. Like,
yeah, a big storyline for you. It could be that those two pitchers are awesome at the front. It could be that their bullpen faltered. It could be the offense was good, not good. Was there anything that was specifically that was a bigger storyline over those 4 days?
I think it's just the realization of how high the ceiling and how low the floor is with this bullpen. Right, when they're at their best and they're throwing strikes, they're giving up 2 runs and against a good Ole Miss team at the SEC tournament. Right, when they're not at their best, they're, walking the park and giving up and losing 13-3 in Northwestern State or 10-4 to Little Rock, right? So I just feel like the lack of command and the lack of control with these guys, even if they have all the talent in the world and enough talent to win games in Omaha with, it's risky. It's just you don't know what you're going to get on any given day, and that's the case with 4 or 5, maybe even 6 guys toward the top of his bullpen, and it's kind of impossible to know what you're going to get on any given day. And granted, like usually you don't get what happened on Sunday where you get 3 guys at the same time, where it just really falls apart for all of them. Usually it's just 1 or maybe 2. But once you get to 3 or 4 guys, that's when you're kind of leaving yourself up to lose to almost anybody. And I think that's kind of what we saw, especially from a pitching standpoint. That was the thing that kind of stood out to me the most over the weekend. I
don't disagree with that at all. What I found interesting is that Chase Shores was up and warming on Monday. And I had Jay Johnson on yesterday, and he said his confidence in Zach Allen is as high as ever. Now, he's going to talk publicly that way, but how do you feel the staff's confidence is in those 2 guys, specifically in Shores and Cowan?
They also, here's the thing, I won't say don't have a choice because they do have other guys, but they need those 2 guys in particular to pitch at their best. So, of course, Johnson's going to say that he's confident in them and he's going to use them. Whether they actually perform is a whole other question. And with Zach, it's kind of a mystery because, again, his command was so consistently good. And even when he got hit around a bit, like against Texas A&M or had some of these weaker performances, he was still throwing strikes. He was just getting hit hard. And it seemed like more of a pitch mix problem than anything else. And I think you kind of saw some of those adjustments in the first inning. But then after that, we get a walk, we get a hit by pitch, all of a sudden guys are on base, all of a sudden Angel Sosa's at the plate, and he turned into Babe Ruth over the weekend, so it didn't matter who the heck was throwing to him, he was going to hit the ball. Things just really spiraled in a way that, in a fashion that was kind of surprising for him in particular. And as for Chase, it felt like his command had improved since he made some of those mechanical adjustments, and the stuff has improved as well. He's hitting 100 miles per hour more consistently. I mean, part of that's because he can throw shorter innings, but he's throwing out of the stretch. He's a little bit more closed off. And then, yet the command aspect of it has still been a little bit shaky, not quite as shaky as it was when he was a starter. But like it's hard to sort of totally explain why for a couple of batters he looks unhittable, and then the very next inning it really, really goes sideways on him. So I think they have to trust those guys and hope that they can be the pitchers that they've shown at times and can be. And because if they don't, then they have other options, but those guys are also can be hit and miss. So that's just the reality of the situation they're in right now.
I'm with you every step of the way. So let's play hypotheticals. Anderson gives way, and LSU's up 4-2, and he goes 7 1/3. You've got 5 outs to go. Where do you think they turn on Saturday?
That's a good question. I think they might go matchup ball a little bit. If the lefty's up, then I could really see the possibility of Cooper Williams or even DJ Primo coming into the game. But if it's a righty and they got and it's majority righty the rest of the way, it's probably going to be one of those two guys. As you said, it's probably going to be Cowan or Shores, if I had to guess. I think Myers' command is just there's a longer history of it not being very good, which is why I think they would only put him in a situation where they're up 5 or down 5, which is still important to some degree, right? Like I don't want to like totally poo-poo that, but I think that would just be the situation there. And I mean, maybe they could go to Jade Newt, but they seem to like Newt more as a starter toward the beginning of the game anyway. Maybe it's Rizzi, but it doesn't look like they have that level of trust in Rizzi. They haven't put him in that many situations where it's do or die. You're only up by 2 runs. And so like, this is a good, I like this question because it kind of, you kind of go through the options and you're like, well, you kind of land on Cowan or Shores again. Right. So I think that's just what they're going to do. Barring a major, a real change from what they've done the last couple of weeks.
Let's see if we can throw another good one at you here. What was the biggest development over the weekend? Curiel swinging the bat the way he did, Milam swinging the bat the way he did, or the 1 home run that Jones hit on Monday? Which of those 3 do you think is the most encouraging?
For me, it's probably Milam because he's finally hitting the ball hard again. And he's a guy who just doesn't really swing and miss a lot, so I don't think that was really the main issue. But it was just a lot of weak contact, a lot of getting underneath the ball, a lot of swinging at pitches that were going to be tough to drive in general. And there is just his swing just hasn't looked quite as, I don't want to say fluid, but it just hasn't seemed as I don't know. There's just like a lack of. It just felt like he could hit any pitch hard last season, and that just hasn't been the case this year. Maybe because he's selling out for a little bit more power. Like that's an idea that's been floated around, but I really think he just looked way better this weekend, and that wasn't just against Little Rock's pitching; that was also against DBU, and I feel like he just looked better and more comfortable at the plate. And he was hitting the ball harder, more consistently. I know he went 0 for 5 in the last game, but he hit a couple balls right in the screws, and that's what you want to see from him. Him just hitting the ball hard consistently, a couple balls get out. He hits a bunch of doubles. Like that's the Stephen Milam you want to see offensively. I know he has a very big load defensively this year, which might have to play a part in this. But again, he's just looked night and day better offensively.
Yeah, he hit it really hard twice on Monday. Had nothing to show for it, for sure. I know that you just wrote a piece up at The Advocate talking about West Virginia, kind of previewing the Mountaineers as they come in for the Super. Anything stand out in your research?
Their defense is not very good. You probably said this on your show already, but I mean, the Tigers have 38 errors this year. LSU has 38 errors, which is a pretty good low number. But West Virginia is at 65. That's like kind of night and day from a defensive standpoint. And like West Virginia, unlike most teams, West Virginia doesn't have a ton of pitching depth. They don't have a very physical offense, but they have a deep offense with a lot of good contact hitters. They only have one guy who has 10 or more homers on their team. Like, they're not going to really run into too many home runs this weekend. And as I say that, they're probably going to hit like 5. So, that's kind of my takeaways with like what this team looks like. But in terms of like the big thing to look out for, like, it's the defense to me. And I got West Virginia had 9 errors this past week at the Clemson Regional. It's kind of a miracle that they won all 3 games despite averaging 3 errors per game. So I just really feel like if LSU can hit the ball hard, get the starters out of the game early, they're going to have success in offense. And I know that sounds kind of pretty simple, but that really sort of plays into the weaknesses of this West Virginia team. And then on the flip side, it's just going to be, runner control, and can LSU starters, can LSU pitching, rack up the strikeouts the way they have this season against a very good contact hitting team. So those are kind of the 2 keys on both sides of the ball for LSU this weekend.
I know LSU didn't play Vanderbilt this year, did not play Florida this year, did not play Georgia this year, didn't play Ole Miss this year. So a lot of the teams that were knocked out early were not teams that LSU played. But you watched a lot of SEC baseball this year. Are you surprised at how much the league struggled over the weekend?
Yeah, you have to be, right? Given how dominant this league is, given all the things we've talked about around the reasons of why this league has become so dominant, the resources, the transfer portal, the shrinking of the minor leagues, all this stuff Jay Johnson talks about a million times as to why the league has gotten stronger. I mean, he's right. Like, all these reasons are why, 13 teams make the NCAA tournament, and why every metric and every ranking has, loads and loads of SEC players. So when they're going up against, no offense to Little Rock, a team like Little Rock, you don't even expect it to be a fair fight. And the disparity is even more than the disparity we see in like college football, at least in my opinion. So it is very surprising to see this many teams struggle. Maybe part of it's just the correction from last season where we got a lot of chalk last year. In the tournament. I mean, it was 4 SEC teams, 4 ACC teams. We're not even going to get 4 SEC teams in this year. We might not even get more than 2. So it's really interesting to see the way things have shifted, and honestly, it's very unpredictable. Even though I will say the teams that went down, you could have at least made a case as to how they would go down, right? Like, Texas wasn't the most talented team this year, even though they were very successful in SEC play. Vanderbilt is a deep squad, had a very good regular season, but again, like, you wouldn't put them in the top 4 or 5 teams in terms of talent in the league. Georgia had its flaws all year. Ole Miss was a team that probably slightly overachieved in terms of what we thought they would be doing this year. I guess those teams in particular, and Florida had so many injuries, and they were actually in a pretty tough regional, so that didn't really surprise me that much. So I feel like, even you can even point to a team like Tennessee and Arkansas. One of those teams isn't going to make it, which is really surprising given how we looked at those teams at the very beginning of the year. You're absolutely right. It is surprising how many SEC teams have fallen. And because of just, again, the way college baseball works today.
Does LSU win 2 or 3 this weekend?
I think so. I mean, at least they should, right? Like, they have almost every advantage you want on paper. They're at home at the box. It's hard to beat this team at the box. This team in particular is very well set up to win a super regional, especially winning it early because of their top 2 starters. They have probably the best 1-2 combination in the country. That's something that every team craves, and they have. And can they just, string enough good at-bats together, get a couple big hits, and then can the bullpen, be on its good side and not on its bad side, right? Like, if those things happen, they're going to win easily. But if those things don't happen, or a couple of those things don't happen, they could definitely lose. So I know that's a very simple analysis, but And that's just kind of how this team has rolled so far this year. And they've gotten as good of a draw as you could have possibly asked for heading into this regional, super regional. It's just a matter of playing up to their potential. And they've just been too inconsistent with that so far this postseason to be super duper confident in them winning the super regional.
Great work so far, Koki. We'll see you at the box on Saturday, man.
Awesome. Thanks, Hon.
Koki Riley with The Advocate, been following LSU baseball all year long, giving us time on Wednesdays, and we'll see him up at the box, 2 o'clock, first pitch on Saturday. All right, when we come back, a great piece up right now at LouisianaSports.net from Ross Jackson. A little bit of food for thought for the Saints as they wind down OTAs. I'll talk about it coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Chugging along here. Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Contact my guy, Joey Blanchard, 225-252-7745. That's where you get him directly. That's his cell phone. Local Baton Rouge guy. He has installed pools for dozens and dozens and dozens of people in the Baton Rouge area, and you can be next. You've always thought about the dream of owning a pool, whether it's for your kids, maybe you've got grandkids now and you want to have a reason for them to come over to the house, or maybe you just want a place to enjoy a cocktail or some sunlight right now by yourself. Either way, if you want to put a pool into your backyard, no matter what that project looks like, big pool, small cocktail pool, outdoor kitchen, Renaissance Homes and Pools can help you with that. Reach out to Joey directly at 225-252-7745. He'll be there from the start to finish. He'll be there for the design. He'll be there for the digging. He'll probably grab some of the equipment and do some digging himself if somebody's taking a lunch break. That's how involved Joey Blanchard is. If you want to know that you're working with someone who's going to be accountable for every step of the process, Renaissance Homes and Pools is where you need to start with my guy, Joey Blanchard. The Saints are wrapping up OTAs. The last media session for OTAs is Thursday. Mandatory minicamp comes up next week, and fans will be allowed to go check that out, and there will be more storylines that go into that as we now really approach the summer, and like training camp's not that far away. And Ross Jackson's been doing an awesome job covering OTAs for LouisianaSports.net, also Locked On Saints, and he's got a piece up right now at LouisianaSports.net, kind of what to look for in the final day of media practice with OTAs. And it starts with Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shook, which you would imagine it would, right? And that's going to be the biggest storyline and the juiciest storyline. And we're all very well aware that nobody's winning the starting quarterback job in OTAs, right? But that battle matters every day. And it feels like there's an interesting dichotomy between Rattler, who by all accounts has been a little bit more consistent, been a little bit steadier, and then Shook, who's been a little bit flashier, but also is a bigger investment for the organization. So there's like a push and pull there between those two guys and kind of where they are. And their performance over the next couple of weeks does matter. What happens in training camp matters more, but it does matter what they do. And that's certainly something that we'll keep an eye on tomorrow. I think this is really fascinating just because I'm ready. I'm ready to see Quincy Riley on the field. He hasn't been able to participate in the offseason yet, but that's a guy that I believe the Saints want to help them in the secondary this year. We spoke to Sharif Ishak about it yesterday, and I'm with him. Like, that's a guy that you took in the middle rounds that you feel like can help. And the biggest thing in training camp, in preseason games, and early in the season into later part of the season is going to be what the Saints can get out of this draft class. That, of course, starts with Shook. But it's not just Shook. It is the guys like Quincy Riley who you've taken pretty early. Like, yeah, we're going to have all eyes on left tackle at Kelvin Banks. Like, that's a big freaking deal to have your top 10 pick be a star. And you move Fuaga and you feel good about that. But, like, it's not just that. Because the Saints have hit on some first-round picks. But there have been some times where the later rounds, they've just completely whiffed. And if in the salary cap situation you're in right now, and the roster situation you're in right now with the contracts you've got and the ages of those players and their declining production, if you do not hit on mid-round picks in this draft and the next draft and the next draft, you are not going to dig out of this hole. And Quincy Riley is not going to prove to me on Thursday or next Wednesday that he's a Pro Bowler. But I would like him to get out on the field and compete. Because Tyron's not going to be there forever. And Jordan Howden hadn't done a lot. And you've got this guy that a lot of folks think was a good pick that just hasn't quite gotten out there. And I'm not saying like rush him to the field. Like this is not a situation like the Saints felt about Kendre Miller. Well, he won't practice and he gets hurt. Like this, we're way, way, way short of that. But I would like to see him out there. I would like to see him practice. And I would like to see where he lines up. Is he taking reps behind Tyron? Is he taking reps behind Reed? Is he potentially coming up and playing closer to the line of scrimmage? How does that work with Kool-Aid and Lante Taylor? Like there are some pieces to that puzzle that I'd like to see moved around a little bit. And as long as you're not out there, well, I can't learn. And then you've got the storyline that continues all the way through the regular season, really. But Ross writes about new players. Like they formally announced Derek Carr's retirement on Tuesday. That opens a roster spot. Ryan Ramchick's retirement is coming up. That should happen within probably the next 48 hours. So are the Saints going to add? Are they going to add on the defensive line? They brought in Jonathan Bullard. He's got connections with Brandon Staley, we know. Does he come in? I think that makes a lot of sense. You do have a little bit of cash laying around to add some guys that potentially could help. I would prefer that those guys be closer to 25, 26 than the Brandon Cooks ad. I want guys that you might be able to get something out of for multiple years instead of just the one, because I've talked about this a lot. I don't have huge, high, massive expectations for the Saints in this year. But like, who can they bring in? What new face might show up? And is there something in that player's career that suggests that he could be, I use air quotes, long-term? Long-term, 3 years. Like, can somebody show up that can help for potentially three years? That's the track for Justin Reed. Certainly not for Tyrann Mathieu. But I think all that is interesting. It's OTAs are for the diehards. They're for the guys who are in the foxhole, for the ladies who are in the foxhole 365. You got to dig to find something to care about in OTAs. But I am, interestingly enough, like, I'm energized a little bit by the restart of the Saints. I'm energized by it. I think the end of the Derek Carr and Dennis Allen era is boring. It's lifeless. There's nothing to cling to. Hope is fleeting and it's not concrete, but man, can it pump some life into you. And I'm ready to start looking at this optimistically as to what young players could help, as opposed to running out the string with this previous core of players. So I'd like to see some guys on the field, rookies that they've just drafted, guys that they might bring in to take a look at. That's the fascinating part to me, and we'll be locked in. We'll talk to Luke tomorrow. We'll talk Saints with Sharif and Luke, and we'll do some more next week when they get into mandatory minicamp, which is where you'll really see the team in its full form at this point in the calendar. But there's some stuff to cling to, and Ross Jackson will certainly be all over it at LouisianaSports.net. We'll be all over it daily here talking Saints. You're looking for my Saints content, Hunt on Saints is where you can find it. Just search on YouTube. You'll be able to subscribe to the channel, and you'll get that into your feed every single day. That's a look at the Saints here on this Wednesday. We'll step aside. When we come back, we will talk some LSU football. Whit Weeks was on with Matt and Jake this morning, said something very interesting. I liked it. We'll talk about it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com is that website. Every car that is on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. Genesis is a luxury brand at a reasonable price. That's the model that Genesis has put forward. And it's awesome because the line of vehicles from the entry level all the way to the highest end, from the sedan all the way to the SUV, is phenomenal to drive. If you've never gotten behind the wheel of a Genesis, which it's a reasonable chance you haven't, just go by and see them. Chat with one of their brand ambassadors. You're not going to feel pressured. You're not going to feel upsold or taken advantage of. It's going to be a comfortable experience. You're going to be treated like a guest, and you'll see the difference when you get behind the wheel. It's stylish. It's comfortable. Reasonable price, luxury vehicle, and it's one of the safest cars on the road. If you're on Airline Highway looking for a vehicle, just make one more stop. PQ, across from Women's Hospital. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. Tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you on in there. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge, and you can find them online at genesisofbatonrouge.com.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
My phone. It's very disappointing.
It was very loud.
It was. It fell from the desk down, which is 3 feet. I don't need it for this segment, but it's just disappointing. I have a bit of a phone addiction. I need it at the ready all the time.
You and many millions of others.
My wife's not a big fan. You know what really grinds my wife's gears? Whenever she walks into the living room and I'm staring at my phone, and Myers, who's 3, is staring at his tablet watching Spidey, and we're like 2 feet from each other, and we're both just staring at screens. Not her favorite part of the day. That gets at the low end, that gets an eye roll. At the high end, it goes, "What are y'all doing? Put them away."
Good. She should be saying that to you, Hunt.
I got to look at Twitter. The kid's watching Spidey. I got to see what's going on the internet.
Yeah.
Should we talk about football now?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, good. Let's go. Whit Weeks was with the guys this morning. Jake and Flynn are getting some incredible guests on Off the Bench. They're off to a great start this week in their first week as a full-time duo, and they had Whit Weeks come on today at 9:30. You can check that interview out on demand on YouTube, wherever you find your sound. And I thought there were some really interesting pieces of the interview. Obviously, Whit Weeks had a phenomenal season last year. And I wrote this over in a story at LouisianaSports.net that spurred from the interview. But Weeks last year finished the season with 125 tackles. Only 7 players in the history of the school have made more tackles than that in a single season. So it was a great year. And it obviously ended in a very, very scary injury where he got rolled up on. And you saw it, and the cart comes out in the freaking Texas Bowl, and you're like, this is awful. But relative to what we watched, like the optics of the injury, and they ran the slow-mo replay, and most of you probably watched it, it looked atrocious. But you've got a broken leg and a dislocated ankle. And in the grand scheme of things, like, I don't want either one of those things. But that's better than ripping your knee up. And so had the surgery, and he sat out the spring, and he told the guys that he's about 95%. He's fully cleared for all football activities. They started running this week. They have some player-led practices this week, and he's cleared to do everything, which is awesome. Blake Baker said that last week with Jake, and Whit Weeks echoed it. But the thing that I took away from the interview that he did this morning was what he took from watching spring ball, because we went out there for the spring, and you're watching LSU's defense, and you're looking at new guys. You're looking at Jack Pyburn and Patrick Payton out there. Jamari Butler's out there. There's Jakeem Jackson. Mansour Delane's back there. Like, they got a lot of new faces on that defense, and there are 2 guys that are missing. And Whit Weeks was there every single day, but he wasn't practicing, and he liked what he saw. And this is what he told Matt Flynn and Jacob Hesker today on Off the Bench.
I mean, I think our defense is going to be special this year. I mean, the dudes that we brought in on the transfer portal, they're all dogs. And, getting to step back and watch from the sidelines this spring, I think that our defense this spring was better than we were last season. And you're missing me and Harold out there. So it's a promising sight to see.
That is a promising sight to see. And, I want to be clear. I don't think Whit Weeks is going to go. First of all, he's like the happiest dude ever, and he's gregarious and joyous all the time. But he's not going to go on Off the Bench and go, man, I was watching this spring, and these dudes we brought in, they are trash. And I think our defense is going to get smoked this year. Okay, he's not going to say that, right? But I also think that there's probably some real truth where that statement was rooted from. And I think that the excitement level that some of these guys have on defense about the additions that have come in, like you hear it in Whit Weeks' voice there. I talked to Gabe Relaford in the spring in an interview session, and he was like, man, they brought in like a lot of guys in my position, but like I talked to Coach Peoples, I talked to Coach Baker, and like we're going to play fresh and we're going to have competition and like we're going to be better for it. And I think that everyone's buying into that notion right now. And I think there is a quiet confidence on that defense right now that is encouraging. Now, once again, let me step back and add this caveat because I'm going to play this thing straight for you. Like I tell you about the confidence cycle in a college football calendar every year, and you are about 2 ticks from max excitement, max positivity. That comes in mid-August. No matter what happens in the season, you've got that deal in January where you hire the new defensive coordinator or you get some transfers or the quarterback decides to come back or whatever the case may be. Then you sign the new high school class. And then in spring practice, the results and the reports are always very positive, and you frame things out of positivity with the spring game. And then the spring coach comes on, or the players do a radio interview, and everybody's in the best shape they've ever been in, and you haven't lost a game now, and everybody's in great shape, and morale's better. Like that is what kind of the time of year we're in. I got it. But there have been a lot of changes to the LSU defense, and they're not changes that have a very low floor. Like Patrick Payton is a good college football player. He's proven it for 3 years. Jack Pyburn is an absolute dog against the run. He did it in the SEC wearing a blue shirt. Like the guys they've brought in are pretty high level dudes. And then you pair them with guys like Whit Weeks and Harold Perkins, who have been insanely productive players. Weeks with his 125 tackles. And you can say what you want about Perkins and that he's not going to be the second pick in the draft and not going to win the Bednarik Award. But he's a terror when he's out there in the right spot. And when you look at that defense in the spring and you see the attitude, you see the additions they brought in, you see Blake Baker there for the second year now, and you hear Whit Weeks say, like, I'm looking at these guys, and me and Harold aren't out there, and they're playing really well. And the guys they're playing against are like Garrett Nussmeier and Aaron Anderson and Berrien Brown and Caden Durham. These are guys that are proven commodities in the SEC. The offensive line is not across the board, but the skill guys are. And if LSU's having some success against that group of skill guys in a controlled practice in the spring, like that is a positive sign. I am not here telling you that LSU is a slam dunk to be the number 2 ranked defense in the SEC, number 5 nationally, and allow an average of 11 points per game. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I am saying that when Brian Kelly talks constantly about complementary football and what he needs from both sides of the ball to win field position, to control clock, to score points, to prevent points, and to win games, the defense has got to come up a notch, and the offense has probably got to come up a little bit too. Defense has probably got to come up 3 notches. What I'm telling you is that feels possible. Would I go as far as probable? Maybe not. Possible? Yeah. Reasonable, even? Yeah. And it starts with Whit Weeks, Harold Perkins, Devon Keys in the middle, and then the massive amount of veterans that they brought in up front. And I think that this defense has a chance to be pretty damn good. And Whit Weeks said as much, and it's awesome to get him back. So the guys in the morning doing a great job grabbing some gas. Whit Weeks is really good. If you want to hear his interview, go check it out on demand wherever you find your sound off the bench. They got an LSU channel. You can find it there as well. All right, we got one segment to go. We'll step aside, come back, and do a little bit more before we get out of here on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show. This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Our Rad Dad contest is back and bigger than ever. Roaming Shot Outdoors and Citizens Bank and Trust bring you Dad's favorite gifts ever. A green egg thanks to Goodwood Hardware, a steak pack from Chris's Specialty Foods, manly soap from Hawk Soap, and a hunting class for 2 from Roaming Shot Outdoors. Upload pictures at 1045ESPN.com now through June 8th. Then get your friends and family to vote June 9th through the 12th. Happy Father's Day to all those rad dads out there.
Shout out to the rad dads. Again, I'm hoping to be in Omaha for Father's Day.
Yeah,
Not that I want to avoid the family.
No, but from the thing you talked about last segment about you just being on the phone with Myers and watching on the iPad, it doesn't sound very rad to me, hon. It sounds kind of boring.
Let's see. What's the raddest thing I've done?
I mean, I know you like to throw. I know you love to throw BP to Myers for like 4 hours.
I throw a lot of BP. Lot of BP.
You got to be getting pretty good. I mean, at this point.
I mean, I'm an elite
you played baseball.
BP pitcher.
You got to be elite.
I mean, we're talking about underhand from about 15 feet away.
Yeah.
But I'm pumping them in there.
You could probably be a good beer league softball pitcher.
He makes me laugh. Sometimes he like hits one really good, and that's when he runs the bases.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes like he'll hit a little tapper, like he'll hit a jam job,
and he's like mad,
and like he gets a little sad about that.
Yeah.
When he swings and misses, it is a sad state of affairs back there. Like he doesn't even want to go get the ball. He wants me to go get it. And sometimes
you got to coach him up, huh? That's not good for the morale. I mean, if that's how he can't be thinking that way when he starts playing real baseball. If you swing and miss, you got to be okay.
I'm a little concerned about this. T-ball starts next year.
Yeah.
He won't hit off a tee. He only wants me to throw it to him.
Well, he's got to practice that.
Well, I think when everybody else does it, he'll be fine with it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I think that might be a little bit of a hurdle we're going to have to talk through before we go up to T-ball. We got some time before that.
Yeah, and talking with a 3-year-old is not the easiest thing to do. Explaining something to them, that it's not easy.
As I've said many times, every idea that he has is bad. All of them. Every idea is bad.
Yes.
It's just remarkable. Just completely remarkable. But he's a good kid. Let's do some take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Presented to you by Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer, crafted by America's oldest brewery. Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
As always, take it or leave it, brought to you by Yingling Flight, the next generation of light beer. Speaking of generations, you heard there that Yingling's the oldest brewery in America. If you look at About Us on the Yingling page, CEO and owner, Dick Yingling. Chief Administrative Officer, Wendy Yingling. Employee Engagement Culture Manager, Debbie Yingling. Cheryl Yingling, Jennifer Yingling. This is the 6th generation of Yinglings still running the show at Yingling, and they have got the perfect beer for the Louisiana summer. It is Yingling Flight, 2.6 carbs, 95 calories. If you're on the grill, if you're on the golf course, if you're at the pool, if you're tailgating for a super regional, Yingling Flight. You can find it just about wherever you pick up your cold beers. Make Yingling Flight your next beer decision. I certainly am later on this weekend.
Alrighty, first one, Hunt. The Stanley Cup Finals start tonight at 7 p.m. Do you know who's playing in the Stanley Cup Finals?
Of course, that is the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Nope.
And the Las Vegas Golden Knights.
That is no. Wrong on both
fronts. Have been good. I thought that was a good guess.
Yeah, that was an okay guess. But it will be the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers.
I don't even know what city the Florida Panthers play in. I would guess Miami.
It's close to Miami. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. With those answers, I don't know that you can do this, but can you name one player on either of the teams? Take it or leave it.
The Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers.
I will go ahead and tell you that the Edmonton Oilers have what many consider to be the best player in hockey.
How about
right now.
this? Oh, Connor McDavid.
There you go.
But I wouldn't have gotten that. I wouldn't have known that.
I gave it to you on a silver platter.
I know for sure that Wayne Gretzky played for the Oilers,
yes.
And that would be the only player in the history of the two franchises that I could name. I could not confidently name anybody who's ever played for either team.
That was what I was expecting, but it should end up being a good series. Actually,
I don't know that I could point to Edmonton on a map.
Yeah.
I know where Toronto is. I know where Vancouver is. I don't know where Edmonton is.
Well, it's kind of in the middle.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of space in between those two, but
there's a lot of space in Canada.
Yeah,
a lot of it's not being used, but there's a lot of space.
All right, next one here. Ohio State coach Ryan Day would like to see future models of the college football playoff include at least 4 automatic qualifying spots for the expanded Big Ten. Take it or leave it.
Leave it.
Leave it alone.
I don't need automatic spots for anybody. Let's just pick the teams that get in. I don't even need automatic spots for conference tournament winners in baseball and basketball. Like, it's fine, but like, I don't need to guarantee anybody anything. Let's just work off of merit here. Because we saw giving people stuff last year in the first year, like, didn't work. We had stuff that was completely out of whack. So I understand that, like I said last week, that Ryan Day's job is to go up there and stump for just Ohio State. Not to do what's best for college football. How do I help Ohio State? You help Ohio State by making 4 spots in the Big Ten to make sure you're in the tournament every year. But that's not the best thing to do, so no.
All right, last one here. The Colorado Rockies, Hunt. They swept the Marlins.
Oh,
they won 3 games.
I didn't know that.
And the first series win of the season, they had...
Wait, is that right? First series win of the season?
Their first series win of the season,
Oh,
yes,
my
that is
heavens,
correct.
it's June. It is June.
Yes, but the Rockies, they are now, let's see, they were 9-50, so now they're 11, or they're
12
and 50. The Rockies will avoid the worst record in history of MLB. Take it or leave it.
Leave it. I think they're going to get there. They're terrible. They have no signs of getting better. In fact, they're going to get worse. If there's anybody on that roster that can help a contender, they've got to trade them. So they're going to get worse over the next 2 months. And I think they'll be the worst. I watched them play the Cubs, and the Cubs didn't even play worth a flip,
No,
and
they
swept them.
They did.
I mean, and for them, the great stat that was going around that when they were still 9-50, that over the course of like a month and a half, Scheffler had won the same amount of golf tournaments that the Rockies had won baseball games over like a 6-week period,
This was the Rockies' first 3-game sweep since they beat the Padres in May of last year.
I mean, that's just real. Those are big league ball players that can't win a game.
Yeah.
It's just bad. My guy Chris Bryant's there. He doesn't play.
He's hurt. Because I was really hoping to see him in Chicago this the game, but he is hurt. So
I'm not a money manager. I'm not a guy you're going to go to for your hedge fund investment ideas. But that's not a great investment the Rockies made in Chris Bryant. That's a lot of money
really
going out and not a lot coming right on back to the Rockies.
Really bad.
That's a bad team, and they need to be paid attention to because I think they're going to be the worst team in the history of baseball.
On the flip side, though, the Detroit Tigers may be one of the best teams in baseball. And by the way, Javier Baez is playing center field nowadays.
Yes, he is.
For the most part. He played third, I think, recently. But, yeah, center field is actually not striking out that much.
The Cubs have the best record in the National League and the best run differential in all of Major League Baseball.
That is correct.
That's what we like to see. They're making me very happy. Just a nice, clean win last night. And it was on the East Coast against the Nationals. So I was able to go to bed early, which I liked.
Yeah,
so
and the Cardinals are finally starting to lose. So
which is good.
That's what we need.
That's good, no matter if the Cubs are winning or not.
5-game lead in the division for the Cubs right now.
We like that.
Yes.
Oof, I could really go for some October baseball this year.
It's coming, Hunt. It's coming.
I'm in the throes of LSU right now, which is really stressful and really nerve-wracking, even though it's not every night, it's every weekend. But my batteries will be recharged enough after whatever LSU does the next 2 weeks to then deal with that in October.
We're ready. This is prime.
Better chance to win the entire thing, LSU baseball or the Cubs?
LSU. I mean, they're already in the Super Regionals. Let's just say before we start the playoffs, I'd probably still take LSU, but it's pretty close, I think, right now for the Cubs. They have, if they can get Shota back and he's healthy, they have a great chance with the way the offense.
Go trade for another pitcher.
Yeah,
with your new contract.
Maybe a third baseman.
Jed. Maybe, but Shaw's playing great.
He's playing good.
He had a great hit last night. Had a big double.
Yeah.
We like that. All right, that's it for Wednesday edition brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. All right, I got a homework assignment tonight. I'm learning everything I can learn about West Virginia baseball. When I come back for tomorrow's show, I'm going to tell you all that stuff. Plus, we'll talk to Joe Healy as well as Luke Johnson from Saints OTAs. Looking forward to it. Matt's going to drive you home on After Further Review this evening. Everybody have a wonderful Wednesday. About half the work week in the rearview mirror. We're working toward the weekend. See you tomorrow on The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com. Talked to my guy Jonathan Carbo yesterday. Doing well. You need to talk to them if you're a business owner about your commercial insurance policy. I know a lot of insurance buyers on the business side just look at that premium page and see who can cut the rate the best, and that's the one we'll go with this year. I would caution you against that, and I would ask that you just let the Highland Insurance Group take a look at your policy, because they're technically experts, and they'll find issues that some brokers will not, and they can fix them with the dozens of markets that they've got contracts with over at the Highland Insurance Group. They're an independent broker. They've got a lot of markets. They can place your insurance with that best coverage, and they'll can make sure that your price is reasonable as well. The last thing you want to do is spend a lot on premium and have an uncovered loss and have to spend for that too. Contact them online at highlandig.com and make sure that entering storm season, you're taken care of. It's the Highland Insurance Group, highlandig.com.